Hello, and welcome back to the Lemon Drops podcast. One podcast in the internet. Do you know that?
So true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm your co-host, Nick.
I'm your co-host, TJ.
And that's incredible. Today, we have a guest who is quite extraordinary. We would like to welcome Craig Dehut.
Thank you guys for having me on. Is this the part where I'm supposed to say something interesting?
Sure, go ahead.
I love coffee, and maybe that'll help get the conversation going.
Whoa, I love conversations. Coffee seems like an interesting subject to start off with because it is something you start your day with often.
It is, indeed. In fact, I was a little late to the coffee game.
Oh.
I did not really get into it until I was 18 or 19 years old. I needed a job when I was in film school. Starbucks was hiring. Thought, how hard could that possibly be? And 6.5 years later, I was addicted to it. And now I've got a small espresso bar in my own home. In fact, that's what I was drinking here before we got started. So that's my own coffee shop.
Absolutely incredible. My dream personally to have my own coffee bar in my house. Who wouldn't want that? Well, I know a few people, but we don't talk about them. They're not very important. But you worked hospitality. You worked in Starbucks for a little bit. How was that?
It was good. In fact, I would say everyone should work some form of hospitality, restaurant or hotel or something in their career, ideally early on in their career, because it gives you a special kind of patience when you know what it's like to be on the other side of the counter and the food's taking too long or the rolls aren't hot anymore, or in our case, the coffee's not ready. And you develop an extra level of grace for those working in that industry if you yourself have done it. So
yeah, I've heard
maybe you don't have to do 6.5 years, but I sure did, and I don't regret it.
Whatever pays the bills, am I right?
And the free coffee. So
you get free coffee?
Oh yes. Free coffee, medical benefits. You decide which of those I was more excited about.
Maybe we should go work at Starbucks.
You can never go wrong with free coffee.
Well, I get free lumber every once in a while.
Wow,
that's cool. Yeah, we work woodworking with our dads. Family business, pretty epic.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely astounding.
We get free coffee there. They make coffee.
They do make coffee. It's not that good, but they make coffee.
Coffee's coffee.
Uh-huh. So we're going to... You and your friends, or you and your colleagues started a business called Appian Media. What is that?
Yeah, this was an interesting origin story. It actually started over coffee.
Oh.
Myself and another freelance video producer, Stuart Peck, he and I both are from the Indianapolis area and really had recently moved into town. Both of us do similar things, and we said, hey, let's get some coffee, talk shop a bit. And very early on, our conversations turned to the lack that we were seeing online of just well-made biblical media, and something that was freely available. So we were either finding high quality, like Netflix quality type of documentaries about the Bible lands, but they cost an arm and a leg. And or you were finding the free stuff, which was free for a reason. Lower quality, we would refer to them as lectures in the land. Someone just happens to be lecturing in the Bible lands, but they don't actually show you or take you there. And so Stuart and I, had the idea of what would it take to get our own team over to Israel and produce it and then give it away for free. So we started Appian technically the end of 2015, founded it as a 501c3, as a non-for-profit, and we're able to, since that time, make 3 trips to Israel, a trip to Turkey. Lord willing, we have another production trip at a currently undisclosed location later this fall, if all goes well. And we've been able to produce 5 different series well, technically 4 different series, 5 different trips, and give them away for free.
That's incredible.
That's
Honestly,
great.
inspiring. We should start a non-for-profit, TJ.
Of what?
We can give out free lemonade.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
I mean, if Stuart and I can do it, surely anyone can do it.
No.
A lot of learning on your feet, though. I mean, we did not begin this thing thinking, oh, we should start a non-for-profit. That would be a lot of fun. We started it by thinking we want to create this thing with a very odd business model of creating a stellar product and then giving it away. And very quickly learned along the way the only way we could do that was through donations. And how do you found a non-for-profit? Neither of us knew. And so we learned. And that's honestly been the story all along is we want to do this thing. I don't know how to do that. Do you know how to know? Do we know someone who knows how to do that? And then connecting with the right kind of people to make things happen. So
That's the Lord's work, really.
that's right.
You do filming. So how did you get into filming? Filmography.
That's a great question. So when I was a teenager, someone gifted our family. I'm one of 7 kids in our family. And so someone had gifted us, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember, but these are like a Sony Handycam camera where you would shoot video on 8mm tapes. So this was pre-digital. And gave it to our family, and we would just make the most ridiculous home movies in the backyard with superheroes and detectives. We had a car chase prior to any of us having driver's licenses.
That's
And
incredible.
so if you can imagine how to pull off a car chase with 2 stationary vehicles, movie magic there. And I don't know, the more we got doing it, I ended up taking those tapes using 2 VCRs. I sound so old. I don't know. I feel old some days. But editing using 2 VCRs, pausing and hitting record at certain times to make the cuts. And before I finished high school, I thought, like, this is really something that I want to pursue. I wanted to do feature-length films. So I wanted to write and be a director. I went to film school with that focus and graduated with a degree in video production back in 2007. And
I was one.
took a very windy career path after graduation that obviously we've already said included Starbucks. It included several other unique opportunities. And now I'm making documentary films for a non-for-profit, as well as creating content for small businesses and other non-for-profits for them to use online.
That's incredible. When I went to the homeschool convention, I seen you talk. That's how we got in touch with each other. And you talked about Hollywood and how it wasn't a place that you really liked. How did what experience do you have with Hollywood? Like, did you do videos or movies? Did you work actually in Hollywood?
No, I did not ever move to California. I come from the West Coast. I grew up in Oregon. I did not actually return to California after graduating and work in Hollywood. But when I use that term, what I mean is the instructors and those who were heading up the program and teaching the classes at film school were people who had worked in Hollywood.
Yes.
Some of them were still currently working in Hollywood. And that term it's different now because the majority of the Marvel movies are not actually made in Hollywood. Yeah. They're made actually in Atlanta, which is where I went to school. But that term is simply major motion pictures in the United States.
Yes.
And they have a particular worldview. They have a particular agenda. They don't all necessarily sit down and confer with each other. Hey, we want to corrupt youth. But they are, I believe, writing from a similar mindset and a similar worldview. And that is a worldview that does not include God and is fairly disparaging against those people of faith. And those were the people who were teaching me my craft. And so not only were they teaching me how to produce videos and shoot and edit and act, but they were teaching us why we should use this skill set to perpetuate their agenda. And it was eye-opening. As I said in my talk, it was cool that you were able to attend that. It was eye-opening to hear them just very openly state, like, this is why we do what we do. We create content like this to change people's minds. And audiences sometimes don't want their minds changed, and so we'll trick them into changing their minds by making the content compelling and entertaining, all the while stripping away a culture. So God has led me on a merry dance between then and now, and here we are. Appian Media is in its 6th year, and we are creating content using the skills we learned from Hollywood professionals, but we are now countering their culture and trying to change people's minds for Christ.
That's great. TJ, you have a question, don't you?
I did. What? I was just. You went through all of. I'm sorry. You went through a bunch of schooling to get to where you are now, and you mentioned film school. Where did you go to? Where was that? Where was the film school you went to?
Sure. So I was homeschooled my entire education, and then I took a year at Ivy Tech College in Columbus, Indiana, and then I took 2 years at the Art Institute in Atlanta. So technically, it was an art school, but they had various programs that focused on motion pictures. I took their 2-year program. Honestly, after about 2 years, instead of staying to get my bachelor's, I couldn't stomach that kind of rhetoric anymore. So I have an associate's degree, which is not common for someone in this industry. And yet I have learned far more in the doing of the craft than in sitting in a classroom talking about doing. And I think that's true for just about any program you might get into. So they set me on a good path, and I don't want to disparage the Art Institute too badly. They trained me well. I mean, I learned all kinds of things and was able to get my hands on some incredible equipment for the time. You guys would probably laugh at it now, but for the time it was, really exceptional. And many of them taught me some really valuable lessons. I don't necessarily want people to come away with the idea that they were all antagonistic towards me, but the overarching theme of what they were teaching us and why we ought to learn it was something that I simply couldn't take after 2 years. And so I have gone on to do other things, and that has included a wide variety of things, some video related and some not. But now in the current position that I'm at, I'm able to use quite a bit of these different skill sets now in one job, which is kind of cool.
That's great. You said you worked with a lot of equipment. What is the most expensive equipment you've ever ran?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know that I could tally that up.
Or what do you like? You don't even have to say the price. Just what do you think was like one of the most expensive like shoots you've done or something?
Honestly, for me, it's what we typically do for Appian. So when we travel over to, in our case, it's been Israel or Turkey. We are a fairly small crew, all things considered. We're usually between 6 to 8 people. And it is a principally 2-camera shoot. And we're using Canon, either Canon C200s or something equivalent. But that's a rig with heavy lenses and monitors that, at least on our most recent trip to Turkey in 2020, included a jib arm and a gimbal to keep it steady. And that's just the camera. Then you're talking about Stuart does the vast majority of our audio recording. So he's got an entire thing in front of him with multiple mics and capturing sound. I think it's fair to say for a trip like that, just for the equipment, I mean, it's tens of thousands of dollars, either in rental equipment or equipment that we own that we contribute to the shoot itself.
Yeah, just camera equipment is too expensive, honestly. Can we just can we not?
That's true.
Like, I would like to do some epic video stuff. I'm poor.
Well, and this is what's exciting because I tell this to my students. I also teach at a place called Apprentice University. I teach high school and college age students. And one of the classes that we do, one of the very first classes that they will take is digital storytelling, where we talk about principles of storytelling, but they're only allowed to use their phones. Mm-hmm. Because nowadays, you're shooting video that's 4K video on a phone, which is just stupid awesome. It's incredible. And so I encourage people, probably you've got a phone in your pocket. Mm-hmm. Master that craft of storytelling, telling something compelling that people want to watch, and then work your way up to equipment that continues to get better over time. But don't think I have to wait until I have really good equipment before I start shooting video.
Yes.
Because then you'll be waiting forever.
Yeah, because that's something I have to humble myself in, because I always am like, I need the best and greatest thing, and then I realize I can't afford the best and greatest thing.
So you give up immediately.
No. I give up. Yes, I always just give up, because that is the way to do it, folks. I'm kidding. Don't give up on your dreams.
No. Don't give up.
You said you
start small.
You said you teach at Apprentice University or whatever. What do you do there?
So Apprentice University is it's located in Brownsburg, Indiana, the west side of Indianapolis, and they are what I would call a college alternative. Basically, they are a certificate program where you can go and get a certificate in a category of something that you're interested in. In my case, it is digital storytelling is the certificate that I have helped to craft and teach there. But they learn by doing, which is what I said earlier, where throughout a approximately 2-year program, they will have at least half a dozen apprenticeships where they will work with existing companies and do work for them. They'll get paid for the apprenticeship, which then pays for the classes that they will take during the week, and then we meet in person 1 day a week. So on Fridays, I will come to Apprentice University and teach classes in digital storytelling, podcasting, multi-camera live streaming. I have taught classes in more advanced like DSLR or mirrorless camera shooting, which encompasses advanced lighting and audio recording. And basically what I'm trying to do is prep these students to whatever career path they may choose. Oftentimes, they will be more valuable to a potential employer if they know how to create compelling video, at least to some degree. And so I've been doing that now for 4 years, and I have seen students come through the program, finish the program, and leave with a resume that is more impressive than anything I had when I was in my late 20s. These students are coming out with like I said, 6 to 8 apprenticeships where they've got that experience. They've got a resume that looks great. They ideally have great letters of recommendation from these companies, and they have a portfolio of work, because the classes that we teach require compelling capstone projects to finish it all off. So they can then hand that to an employer and say, I made that video. I shot and edited that on a phone. And we have had some incredible response from employers who were like, there's no way you shot that on a phone. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And Appian Media actually makes use of some of these apprentices. And we've just had an incredible time with them.
You do all your own editing, correct? Or most of it?
For Appian Media, I do the vast majority of the editing. Occasionally, we will hire out additional contractors or use different members of our team. But yes, principally, I do the editing.
What program do you use?
I am partial to the Adobe Creative Suite. So I use Adobe Premiere, After Effects, Photoshop, Illustrator. I do know how to use Final Cut Pro. That's what I really kind of fell in love with and used during film school. But then they changed it to Final Cut 10, and it just got weird. And fell in love with Premiere. So
nice. See, how long have you used how long have you used Adobe Premiere?
That's a great question. Let's see. Probably since 2010. Yep. So it's gone through some changes.
Nice.
I also heard you were a video game designer / producer and you made a game or so. How did that go?
That is true. Yes. One of the things that I encourage my students to do is to be open to opportunities that may not seem like they fit in your current career trajectory. And that's what happened to me. I was actually working part-time at Starbucks. I was working at a television station in TV news. And a friend called me up and said, I work for a company. They've just started kind of a mobile gaming department. And they need animators and game designers. Is that something that, so he knew that I was into illustration and animation and said, you're asking me, do I want to make video games for a living? Sure. And so I did. That was a company called HitSense in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And the first game that we worked on was a game called Draw a Stickman Epic.
That sounds incredible.
And it is. It really is. I mean, even now, I let my kids play it, and it's it's been years since it came out. But it won some Webby Awards. A really fascinating kind of adventure puzzle game where you can not only draw your character, but you draw the different elements that your character needs in order to solve puzzles throughout the game. It's very witty. I was not the creator of it, but I was on the team that helped to animate the different elements and create the assets for it. Occasionally, I would offer suggestions as to puzzles or gameplay. And then we went on to create a game called Battle Pillars. And it's caterpillars with armament and artillery. And it's a tug of war style game where you are creating units and either another player or the game itself are creating units and you're trying to take over each other's base. And again, it's silly fun, but even now it's my kids love to play it and I was proud to be a part of that.
Nice.
Fine. I looked up my phone and I seen it. There's also an Epic Stickman. Make a Stickman. I seen when I went on the App Store to look up Make a Stickman. There was also Make a Stickman 2. Did you help design that one too?
Correct. Yes, there was. No, I had actually left the company at that point and moved my family up to Indianapolis. I had taken a job with a video production company up here. And but no, you better believe that I downloaded it as soon as it came out and played it as well. It's got a different flavor for sure, but it's still generally the same concept. You draw your own stuff and work through a kind of moving, interactive, slightly three-dimensional world, and it's very creative.
Mm-hmm. Would you have any desire to continue to design games and stuff or illustrate?
Oof. I never want to. I'm trying to think how exactly I want to say that. I never want to decline going through a door unless I've at least taken a look through it. So if I never want to say I will never do that thing. No, I want to be open. And so if an opportunity comes and maybe they, need help creating new games or I can do illustration. Never say never. Right now, I'm very much loving what I'm doing and would like to continue to pursue that. But you never know. 10 years ago, I never thought that I would be doing what I'm doing now. I had totally different aspirations. And so who knows? In my 40s, 50s, maybe I'll open a coffee shop.
60s, 70s, you'll never know. 80s, 90s, you never know. You did commercial work visual illustrations. I'm good at language, guys. You did illustrations for ads and stuff. What was that? How does that happen?
How does that happen? It happens by what my 8-year-old son is currently doing. Is I grew up drawing. I loved to draw. I had aspirations to be the next, Jim Davis is the creator of Garfield, or I wanted to be like Bill Watterson, Calvin and Hobbes. When I was younger, my aspiration was to be a cartoon, like a comic strip artist. And so I drew all the time. And again, it's one of those things that you should develop skills that you're passionate about, because you never know in what capacity you might use that in your career. And so, clients have hired me to either illustrate things for the videos that I create for them, or for websites. Again, it was a talent that came in handy when I was producing video games. I still get to use it on occasion because some video projects require the creation of storyboards, which are essentially comic strips. And so I still get to draw on occasion. Most of my drawing these days are to assist my 8-year-old son in when he asks me, "Can you draw this character that you used to do?"
Best
then I'll do that.
Ever. That's how you do it.
Yeah. That's how you do it.
Yes, I agree with that whole thing right there. You talked about kids. You have a family. You do, right?
I do, yes. My wife, Karen, and I live up here near Indy, and we've got 3 children. My son, Ethan, is 8, and my daughter, Avery, is 6, and our son, Silas, is 4 years old. And so, Karen and I have 3 kids, and so blessed with each of them. We're homeschooling the older 2. In fact, today marked the beginning of summer vacation.
Oh.
So we bought donuts and
yes.
Congratulated the kids on a job well done. Congratulated Karen for teaching these kids.
Yes.
That takes a special kind of person.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, the kids are already asking, like, when do we get to go on a trip with you? How old, Ethan was, how old do I have to be to go to Israel? More than 8. But honestly, the idea of eventually taking my wife, which she has not yet accompanied me on any of these trips, and then especially taking our kids would be a trip of a lifetime, I think.
Incredible. Well, I have a super, super duper important question here. Which one would you choose? Which one do you like better, Sony or Canon?
Oh, that is the question of the ages, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You're not even going to contemplate Nikon, because I know that's one of the heavy hitters as well.
You could. Okay, which camera brand do you like best?
No, well, I continually make fun of Nikon because one of the team members, who shall remain nameless, insists on using Nikons, and we all just kind of laugh him out of the room.
That's the way to do it.
Truth be told, for most of the first 8-10 years out of film school, I was a Canon guy through and through. Mm-hmm. Those were the cameras that I learned. The XL1 was kind of the first high definition camera, looked kind of cinematic, that I was using in film school, still recorded on digital tape. Mm-hmm. And so I loved Canon. The first DSLR that I purchased was a Canon T3i, which was that was something else. Honestly, it was kind of a game changer. Now, within the last 4 or 5 years, I have switched to Sony, and a couple of reasons for that. Sony mirrorless cameras are lighter. They produce just as high quality, in my opinion, 4K footage, which is what I enjoy shooting. Mm-hmm. And at the time, they were far superior at shooting high frame rates, so slow motion footage. Canon just didn't consider that a high priority. And so we would bring Canons to shoot our principal stuff, but when we wanted to shoot slow motion, we'd have to put the Canons down and pick up the Sonys, and that just, to me, got tedious. So I decided instead I'm just going to buy a couple of nice Sonys, and they can do both. But as is true with technology, and man, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, these companies, Canon, Sony, honestly Nikon as well, are coming out with new camera bodies every like 2 or 3 months. And this one's got the best specs now, and this one's got the best specs. And so my recommendation to people, like, which is better, Canon or Sony, it's whichever one has the specs that you are looking for in a price range that you can afford. But once you choose, like, stick with it. Because investing in lenses, you can't just buy a Canon lens and expect to use that on a Sony easily. You're going to start investing in one brand or another, and to make the switch like I did gets expensive.
Yes.
So right now I'm a Sony guy. Ask me again in 5 years.
Like, especially for podcasts, I feel like Sony is the way to go, because I don't think there's a single Canon camera that does not have a record limit on it.
Well, and to be fair, many Sonys do have record limits on them as well. Now, the ones that they've come out with in the last couple of years no longer do. Canons have done a good job, at least in the last 12 months, of releasing some that don't have record limits. But you're right. For the longest time, you had about a 25, 30-minute record limit. One, either to allow the file to write to the card, or two, to keep the hardware from burning itself up.
Yes.
Especially once cameras started shooting in 4K. So that is something to be mindful of, that you need a camera that you know isn't going to stop halfway through a long-form video like a podcast.
Yeah, but like right now, all the Sony cameras are out of stock, and it's very annoying. Or all the budget ones are. It's like I was trying to buy like a ZV-E10, and it's like, nope, you can't find it anywhere except for on eBay for 4 times the price.
Yeah, they really, when they release newer models, Sony especially is very quick to discontinue some of the older ones. They cycle through them. So I'm currently using a Sony A6300, and it's probably 5-6 years old. I bought it used, but you can't find it anywhere now, like not even on eBay. So yeah, you're trying to find something reasonably priced. You typically want to buy used if you can.
Yes.
Sony cycles things through quickly.
Yeah, especially with they just released the Sony A7 IV, which
A7 IV, yeah.
Yeah, I want it, but I don't have $3,000.
It is one of those things. You're trying to purchase something. And when it comes to the bodies, you're trying to purchase something that you know will meet your needs, and you anticipate will meet your needs for the next, ideally, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yes.
You don't want to be buying a new body every couple of years.
That's why I'm a little bit...
I would recommend to people, buy a reasonably priced body that will do what you want, and invest in the lenses, because those have a longer shelf life than a camera body.
The reason I hesitate to get like a cheaper camera is because like I don't want to be upgrading then in like 6 months or something. I want to be able to. I want to get something that I will use for the next 3 to 5 years, like you said.
It's true. It's the constant balance. What do you need to create your minimal viable product? What do you need that will meet the specs of what you've got in mind? It will never be the latest and greatest. And I mean, unless you're, I'm trying to think
Elon
of the most well-known. Unless you're someone who's just incredibly well-known, and they'll let you use whatever gear you set your mind on. Most of us, regular human beings, need to use what's at our disposal. And that's how we've done things with Appian, where, we are a nonprofit. And so we create things based on people's donations, and we treat that money like it's not ours. We want to stretch every dollar, but we also want to produce something as good as we can make it. And so the challenge is constantly, we want the best gear right now, but we can't afford the best gear. What can we afford? and finding that balance.
Yes. So you mentioned Kickstarters. You use Kickstarters. How does that go? Like, how do you get money from a Kickstarter? Do you like advertise it? Do you like just ask people on the streets? Like,
oh man, that question is something that I have charged clients for 2 days of consultation to answer. But I'll give this to you for free.
oh,
So I had experience with Kickstarter actually back when I was working at one of my previous employers, and they launched a Kickstarter campaign. My brother Jeff, who is an incredibly talented illustrator, animator, he actually worked alongside of me making these video games. He designs board games, but he launched 2 successful Kickstarter campaigns for his board games. If you look up Pocket Dungeon Quest, and it's pretty spectacular. That Kickstarter is, obviously it's finished now, but you can still go and see the campaign. And learned a lot from observing his campaigns, from running a campaign for this previous employer that honestly did not go well. And sometimes you learn more from failure than you do from success. So when it came time for Appian Media to raise, we used Kickstarter in our first year. We moved away from it after that first year, but in our first year, we used Kickstarter. It is far more than just creating a compelling campaign page and hitting go, because the internet is vast. Kickstarter is vast. I mean, new projects are launching on that, every few minutes. How do you make your stuff grab people's attention more than anything else that's coming out? It really is about assembling fans and interested parties long before the campaign ever launches. So you're advertising, you're creating social media pages, promotional videos. In this day and age, you're probably on TikTok, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook. Are people still on Facebook? On Twitter, perhaps. And you're letting people know this thing is coming and we're going to need your help. And this is why it's important. So that when you hit go, people are basically waiting for that page to go live and they're jumping on it.
yeah.
And then secondly, you're creating something that people actually want to see made. And that's the balance. Every artist wants to see their stuff made, but the artist needs to come up with an idea that other people also want to see made and are willing to pay for it.
Yeah, that's one thing about like running basically any like business that you sell products to the majority of people is you just have to be on every social media platform so that you can actually all the main businesses right now or that have been for a while have always have a media team. Like getting your name out there is one of the most important parts of any business. TJ, can you be my media consultant?
Yes.
Yay! Well, I just hired a media consultant. So that
I've got to know. I'm always curious. What kind of social media platforms are you guys on?
Currently, it's only Instagram because that's really all we have the time to run. Kind of.
I could probably make it. We got Facebook too.
Yes.
So as far as your podcast, you're saying you're on Instagram. What do you all use as individuals?
I only use Instagram.
I use Instagram.
You
and
only
Facebook.
use Instagram.
I don't.
Okay.
I try to make it. I don't touch TikTok. That's not something I want to get into. It's just. It's actually kind of. It's awful because it's just your brain. It's like eating Pringles. Like
What's wrong with Pringles?
It's like you eat chips and you're not full, but you're not quite, but you're not satisfied, and so you just keep on eating, keep on consuming content, and your brain is never let up. It always just keeps
never
on
satisfied.
More and more, and it's not healthy. So I try to stay off that.
That's a great way to describe that. I'm not on TikTok either. Appian Media is not on TikTok, even though several people have been like, why aren't you on TikTok? Because my brain can't handle that either. I'm glad to hear you say it because I thought it was just because I'm an old man. But apparently, consuming content in 10 or 15 second bites is like eating Pringles. I like that.
It's But the problem is there's just so many people on that as well. So the best way to start something and get something going fast is to be on TikTok, because that's what literally everyone is on. It's like
Not everyone.
Bet I don't believe you.
You're not on there.
Well,
I'm not on there.
He's not on there either.
Craig.
I'm not on there. So
you're not helping me.
I'm not helping, am I?
So like because some of those things were like advertisements on that things. Like, see how I think the Super Bowl gets somewhere like 30 million views in the Super Bowl, and like an ad on there is like millions of dollars for like just a few seconds. And like on TikTok and stuff like that, you can get way more views than that, and on YouTube and stuff, and then they pay fractions of the cost, and it's genius, honestly. Like people like Mr. Beast, for one, he just has crazy expensive shoots and stuff, and he does it because he can get sponsorships, because he gets millions of views, and it's just a crazy cycle of get money, spend all of it, get more views, get more money, spend all of it, get more views, get more money, and it works incredibly well.
I bet he doesn't spend all of it.
He doesn't. I'm pretty sure
Mr. Beast is a unique case. There is a difference, and really the question you've got to ask, it's the question that we ask at Appian, is what's the return on investment? Where are we going to see the largest return? So we're a non-for-profit. Our objectives are to get the content in front of as many people as possible, but also to bring awareness to the nonprofit so that we can receive donations, so that we can create new content. And what we have found is we could spend a whole lot of time creating content to fill Twitter or to fill Instagram. But what's the return on investment there? Rarely will, at least we have found, rarely will someone go from Instagram to our website or to our app and complete, a donation or a purchase. And so you do want the brand awareness. You want people to find you where they are looking for content. But until we have a media team of 15 people who can each take one social network per employee, we have to decide where's our time best served. Right now, for us, that's YouTube. YouTube is our largest and fastest growing audience. YouTube generates ad revenue for us, which Instagram, I don't care what they say, doesn't. It's accomplishing both of our missions at the same time. We are getting the content freely available to people where they're looking for it, and it benefits. So you guys have to ask, yourselves the same thing. I think Instagram's a good move for your podcast.
Yeah, because
would TikTok be?
See, one of the reasons I feel like Instagram is also a better move for us is because we're a more general, like something that you'd listen to on a normal day. And that's also what Instagram, you use Instagram regularly, and then you listen to us regularly. So like it's a great mix.
That's right. That's right. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, we are very, very smart people here. I hope.
I'll take that credit.
TJ, you need to be better. I don't know. So you do some podcasts. What podcasts do you do?
So Appian Media produces 3 different podcasts, and I've been involved in the creation of all 3. But I personally co-host one of those, and we call it Inroads. And basically, it's myself and the other co-founder of Appian, Stuart, and the two of us either talk amongst ourselves, but typically we'll interview another person who is using media to evangelize. And so we love talking to other podcasters. We love talking to other video professionals, but we also love talking to people who maybe they're actors or directors or just regular people who found interesting ways of using new technology to reach people with the gospel. And so we've been able to interview a wide variety of people, from Tim Mackey with the Bible Project to Stephen Kendrick, who's one of the directors of Facing the Giants and Fireproof. We've spoken with several different actors. Other documentarians, Tracy Robinson was a fascinating interview that we did, I believe, in season 3. She's got a documentary out, or that's just about to come out, called The Matter of Life, in regards to the abortion issue. And we were able to speak with her right around the time she finished that documentary. And for us, it's just an exciting conversation to hear from other people who are trying to accomplish the same mission that we are, but perhaps they're going about it in a different direction, from a different direction. And so that's Inroads. And we are in between seasons, and we are excited, Lord willing, to be producing some new episodes this year.
Incredible. Mm-hmm. See, when I went to the homeschool convention and I listened to your what they call workshops, I absolutely loved your take and everything, and exactly how, like, I love, like, what goes into creating a workshop like that, or like a seminar type thing.
Well, that was a new experience for me in regards to a homeschool workshop, but it was not the first time that I had presented content like that. Mm-hmm. Truthfully, I have presented it in sermon form. Mm-hmm. Churches around the country have asked me to present similar type of material. But really what goes into it is identifying who my audience is. I'm going to talk to a group of homeschool families differently than I may talk to a group of, a room full of filmmakers. And identifying what I believe that the audience needs, what I can contribute to that audience in a way and from a perspective that maybe is unique. God's message isn't unique. There's really nothing new that I can present that people haven't heard before, but perhaps presenting it in a way that is engaging and innovative if we can. And so, this was our first time as Appian Media to have a real booth at that particular homeschool convention, and it was certainly the first time to do a workshop. Mm-hmm. I was very encouraged, especially, you were there for the Hollywood Trojan horse. The room seemed full and excited, and got some great questions afterwards. That's always encouraging to me. We would like to do that again in the future if we could.
Mm-hmm. You definitely did not have big enough room. They should have gave you the big one. They should have gave you the grand stage, because I absolutely loved your workshop. It was great. It was actually my favorite workshop that I listened to that weekend.
Oh man! Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Switching gears a little bit. Oh, sorry. What?
Oh, can I pose a question to you all? Because I'm always interested. You guys have mentioned to me, you've got this podcast, and you've been doing it consistently, consistently for almost a year now. Mm-hmm. I want to know, I'm actually in the middle of teaching a podcasting class at Apprenticeship University. Oh. And so I want to know, from you all, what does it take to keep consistency like that? What does that look like for you all?
It's a lot harder than one might think. I've had weeks where I just would rather not do it. I have a lot of stuff I want to do. But luckily for me, I have Nick that actually...
Well, I forced him to do it.
Make sure it happens. So I think if it was just me, I wouldn't be that consistent.
I look at it as I get to sit down and talk with some awesome people, my friends, and just have a good time for an hour. And I love it. It's my passion project. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a very long time, well before we started this. It actually started as a joke. I was like, TJ, we should start a podcast. And we were just throwing around some random names. And I'm like, I actually want to do this. I'm going to start a podcast. And my friends and family would know me for being notoriously unmotivated. I'll start a project and be like, it's too much work. And this is probably one of the biggest projects I've ever started. And now everyone, my dad especially, is like, I cannot believe after nearly a year you're still doing this. I'm like, I can't believe it either. It's just, I'm doing what I enjoy. So I love it.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. How do you guys come up with topics? How do you guys, obviously, I bumped into you at the convention and you said, "Hey, can you be a guest?" But what does a typical creative session for you guys look like?
Typically, sometimes we'll get coffee. Well, not recently, we haven't because we've been really busy. But normally we'll get coffee and we'll talk about some stuff and we'll plan out some guests. And like we've had a lot of our church on. Actually, we probably had 5 or 6 people from our church on. Like we've had some really cool fellows from over there. Like, but recently it's just we sit down and we ramble and it's not that great. But guys, look, we got Craig on. We're doing better.
We're doing something right.
With moving and stuff. It's just been pretty hectic recently. And
Sure.
It's just I love having my friends on and talking. I don't know how. It's great. That's how I do it.
Just do it.
Well, if it's anything like ours, I typically come away having learned something myself. Sitting down with somebody, maybe I know a bit about them, but you get into the conversation and you learn more about them or about a topic that they're super passionate about that I didn't know before. And so the hope is that our audiences are also listening and enjoying and learning. But for me, I do it because I enjoy doing it, like you're saying, but I do it because it benefits me. I get to learn some things. That's one of the things that I enjoy about video production or documentary filmmaking in general is the people that I've been able to sit down and hear their stories. I can't think of another industry or another career path that would allow me to talk to such a variety of people. So I love what you guys are doing. I think that's fantastic. Definitely don't hit that 1 year mark and go, all done. Man, if you can keep growing this and keep making it better, I imagine your process is better now than it was maybe the first few weeks.
100%.
We actually started out with old church equipment in my bedroom. It was great.
It was
awesome.
Amazing.
Our first episode is not good.
I liked it.
We talked about beans and communism. Very interesting topic. Yeah.
I might have to give that a listen.
Wow.
Or not. You could skip that one.
Maybe skip to the newer ones. No, there's some great ones, especially in the beginning when we were first figuring out what to do. We actually we did some episodes. We recorded some episodes in our break room at work, which had all metal walls, so it was very very noisy. So we got cargo blankets and we just hung them up on the walls.
We also did one in an RV while we were church camping.
Yes. Our first guest we were in an RV at church camping. It was great.
I bet it sounded pretty good, though, in an RV.
It did.
Yeah.
And we also did one episode while we were camping, just me and TJ at Grandma's cabin.
Oh, yeah. We were outside.
We ran an extension cable 150 feet. It was great.
Well, full disclosure, even with what we produce, we'll do quirky, crazy things like you guys have just described in order to get our shots as well. And so just behind the camera, you might see. In fact, I think we've got some behind the scenes stuff on our social media pages, but just beyond camera, you'll see someone holding up a reflector or a diffusion to make sure the shot looks, and we all look ridiculous at times, but you do whatever you need to do to get the shot. And then you learn better next time, how to make it look or sound even better. So there are some things it sounds like you guys have learned. A metal room is probably not the best place to record a podcast. But what can you do? I love hearing you suggest things like that, because that's what I've been saying to my students. Bring sound blankets with you wherever you go. If you're going on a production, bring sound blankets with you, maybe for the floor, for the walls. And especially if it's just a podcast, it doesn't matter what you all look like. It just, whatever it takes to make you sound professional.
Yeah. Switching gears just a tad, I see you're wearing a Star Wars shirt.
It's true. Is that unprofessional? Or
No,
is
it's beautiful. And I know TJ's not going to like me for saying this, but he had a nickname he referred to you as. Would you care to?
Oh, I imagine I've heard this one before.
I hope so. But your name always just reminds me of Jabba the Hutt.
It is true. It is true. I have told people that if they could come up with a joke about my last name that doesn't involve Star Wars or Pizza Hut, that they would get some extra points. Most people can't get farther than those two jokes. So,
Well, TJ has failed. Maybe if we have you on again, maybe then I'll prepare an epic
I'll give
joke.
you some time to you some time to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're fans of Star Wars here. In fact, our kiddos just got to watch their very first Star Wars movie.
Incredible.
We celebrated Star Wars Day
May the 4th.
by watching Episode 1. So my
Nice.
8, 6, and 4-year-old, we decided that was probably the most kid-friendly to start.
Mm-hmm.
And man, they couldn't get over how funny Jar Jar was.
Yes, Jar Jar
And
Binks.
but my favorite moment of the whole movie, it's been out long enough. I feel like I don't have to give spoiler alerts here. But near the end of the movie, obviously Qui-Gon Jinn has just bit it. Obi-Wan Kenobi's fighting with Darth Maul. And Karen and I both know what's getting ready to happen to Darth Maul, and we're curious as to how our kids are going to react to him getting sliced in half. Obi-Wan jumps up, grabs Qui-Gon's lightsaber, flips over the top of him, cuts him in half. Darth Maul's 2 pieces start tumbling down the shaft there. And Silas, our youngest, turns to me and he goes, "He lost his pants."
That
He did. Yes, he lost a little more than that, but
yeah.
that was his
That's-
favorite part.
He got the general idea.
He lost his pants.
I started
And so-
my incredible Star Wars journey of I think 8 months ago, and in that time it took me about 2 months to finish all the Star Wars stuff I could find. I didn't want to. I like waited to start it because I wanted to start at episode 1 and go through absolutely everything chronologically. Because I got into it because the new Mandalorian series came out not too long ago, and I wanted to watch
Yes.
that. And then I was like, well, I'm just gonna watch it, and I watched it, and I was instantly hooked. And now I've watched every Star Wars thing that I could find in order.
So I just want to clarify: you had not previously seen Star Wars
Nope.
until about 6 or 7. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that shows you that I am old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so old that I was alive when the original Star Wars came out. But I think episode 4, right? The first one, episode 4, came out in the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I was born in 84, you guys can do the math to determine how old I am. Return of the Jedi, I believe, had just come out the year before. So the original trilogy had come out. So when I was a kid growing up, we watched that original trilogy all the time.
Incredible.
And then when the new trilogy, which for me was episodes 1, 2, and 3, I think I was in junior high. And man, I saw those in theaters multiple times.
Incredible.
Well, I'm so glad that you've joined the Star Wars
Yes.
fan club. Have you now been able to go back and watch The Mandalorian?
Yes, I did. It's
Excellent.
Very,
Excellent.
very, very Baby Yoda. Correction, Grogu.
Grogu. Yeah, it's
Obviously.
not the child. It's not Baby Yoda. He's got a name.
It's Grogu.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I think that wraps up the episode. I think that went splendid.
That's a good way to wrap it up with Star Wars.
Some Star Wars. Yeah. Well, TJ, you want to sign us off?
Thank you, Craig, for coming out here.
Yes, thank you.
For letting us use your time. I'm sure time is money, and I'm sure that was money well spent. Thank you for being here. And would you like to say something before we end?
I'm just thrilled for the conversation, guys. And I love to hear that you guys are being creative and diligent in your work, and I commend you for it. So absolutely keep it up.
Thank you.
And thanks for having me on.
Well, yep. Thank you for listening. And, we say, TJ,
TTFN?
TTFN,
Tater tots for
tater
now.
tots for now. Goodbye.
See ya.